What is up, everybody? Gannon here, back at it again with another one of my Star Trek reviews. Today we are going to be reviewing episode 6 of season 3 of Lower Decks today, and as you can probably already tell, I'm super happy. I have this huge grin on my face because Lower Decks is going to one of my favorite places in the Star Trek universe today. It has been referenced a handful of times. We've seen some flashbacks even of Mariner at this specific huge, giant Star Trek landmark today. Lower Decks goes all the way back to Deep Space Nine. We even have some legacy characters and some legacy actors in today's episode. This episode is insane. Like, just to be blunt, this is trials and tribulations level episode that we got out of Lower Decks today. Absolutely insane. Let's just get right into it. I am so happy at the Star Trek episode I just witnessed. Let's get right into it. Fear All, Trust Nothing is the title of today's episode, and wow, we just have to say that Season 3 has had its moments, but so far I can kind of say that it has been a little bit more of a boring start to a season. We have gotten an episode, in fact, which I have dubbed the worst, most boring episode of Lower Decks yet, and I have very much been waiting for us to get some actual real content, and we definitely got that in the form of last episode, Reflections, when we got a lot more story out of Rutherford and his past, and that's also opening up for some scandalous activities, because there's definitely somebody who's a higher up at Starfleet who is responsible for the way that Rutherford is currently. So that is really exciting, but we're finally getting back to what Lower Decks does best, and that is to just kind of reference and show love to previous iterations of Star Trek. And today, there has been, a couple times in Lower Decks where they have referenced Deep Space Nine. Mariner spent some time aboard Deep Space Nine, or at least aboard, like, one of those Daedalus class ships, and it was stationed at Deep Space Nine. Either way, Mariner at this point in her Starfleet career, despite being an ensign, has just been everywhere. She knows everybody. She knows all of the cool, awesome, famous senior officers in the Star Trek universe, especially in this episode. We are... Oh my gosh! I just don't even know how to even say this, bro. Like, I did not expect to get this today, because I knew we were going to go to Deep Space Nine. They did reveal that in, like, the previews, but I didn't know how much of Deep Space Nine that they were going to show. Two legacy characters prominently show up in today's episode. For one thing, Nana Visitor is voicing Colonel Kira, which is just amazing. When I saw Kira on the screen, I almost died. I literally almost died. It's one of those moments where it's like, this is a Riker in the Titan moment right here when I saw Colonel Kira on the screen. And then also, Armin Shimmerman is returning in this episode to voice Quark, who is a prominent character that is showing up throughout the entire episode. I just love how much screen time some of my old Deep Space Nine legacy characters are getting. It's just kind of crazy when you think about it, especially when you consider that, like, I've only been a Star Trek fan for about 4 years now, but there have been people who have been watching Star Trek since the damn 60s. They have not seen any semblance of these beloved characters for decades, literally since the 90s. And today, I just got to witness them again hanging out with the Lower Decks cast. It is just so insanely fun to see. They did such a good job. Basically, the plot of this episode was that Captain Freeman and the Cerritos were showing up to Deep Space Nine to assist another ship with a captain by the name of Captain Nguyen, but Captain Nguyen actually got rerouted to a brown hole, which there was a lot of really funny gags and goofs in this episode. For one thing, I liked it when Captain Freeman was like, brown hole? That doesn't even exist. Come on, man, I can't do this myself. Essentially, what they were there to do was to discuss some trade agreements, basically show that there's a lot of profit opportunities to this race known as the Karemma. Karemma, if you remember, are from, like, 2 to 3 different Deep Space Nine episodes, prominently showing up in the Starship Down episode, and that is the episode where the Karama and Quark actually have a really shaky relationship because they learn that all these tariffs and taxes that are being placed on them while they're doing business through the wormhole are actually just being placed there by Quark so that he can actually skim some profits off the top from them, and then Quark is essentially trying to repair his relationship with them for the remainder of the episode. And this is like a direct reference to that, because while Captain Freeman is actually trying to impress them with the Alpha Quadrant and the ability to make money here, she introduces them to Quark, and Quark and them just basically beef the entire episode. Quark has this technology called the Quark 2000, which is this replicator that produces really nice drinks to the point where it's proprietary, and that is how he's able to turn the Quark's bar that was on Deep Space Nine into 21 different franchises, and it's really funny, okay? So they obviously avoid talking about Cisco or any real Deep Space Nine lore. They avoid it like the plague, like they should. We really shouldn't know about Cisco's whereabouts at all. Kira kind of just throws his ball up and down in her hand and talks about how Starfleet is always throwing around curveballs, which, if you ask me, just seeing Nana Visitor be Colonel Kira in today's episode, I just did not expect them to do that. That is so crazy. That is just the blah of this month. Like, you guys have no idea how much I love Deep Space Nine, how it is essentially the reason that I love Star Trek so much. It is pretty much my favorite Star Trek series, even though I feel like there are other Star Trek series that have more rewatchability value, ones that I would probably rather go back and rewatch, because Deep Space Nine is such a concrete story. Deep Space Nine is my favorite Trek, so this episode is insane. Boimler, really funny, just was killing it at the Dabboo tables this whole entire episode, just raking it up, and this whole episode I'm sitting here thinking, like, when is Boimler going to take a tumble? When is he going to take that L? When are things going to start to go sour for him? But no, Bold Boimler's really working out this season. You know, he's really just killing it. He does not falter. He continues to kill it at the Dabboo table the entire episode up until the end, when he basically exchanges all of his Latinum for gift vouchers to Quark's gift shop. Absolutely hilarious. And then Tendi and Rutherford spend the entire episode with an Orion named Mesk, who is just kind of annoying for most of the episode, because he's going around and he's trying to seem very much like an Orion pirate to Tendi, constantly badgering her about the culture that the Orions are, about how he's really likes to steal things, about how he's really a pirate. But, I mean, that's really all good, but he's just kind of, like, annoying and irritating, and he's put there to be kind of the annoying, irritating character to piss off Tendi, essentially, until you get to the point where they finally get to the punchline with this guy, which I enjoyed heavily. Mesk is actually not from Orion, even though he is Orion. He is from Cincinnati, Ohio, so he's an adopted Orion from Ohio. I'm from Ohio, and Ohio is just a huge meme. To everybody in the United States, especially in the Midwest, our state is shaped like a diaper. Our state literally is ridiculous. Our rivers catch on fire. The northern part of our state's whole economy is based around one dude named LeBron James. Like, our state is laughable. So I think it is just really funny that they decided to make this dude from Cincinnati. I thought that was the funniest shit ever. This episode, it was so good, dude. Mariner spends this episode hanging out with Jennifer, finally, this kind of arc between them coming full circle. Mariner is a total Sagittarius freak. She just does not like commitment, does not like being in relationships, and she's really scared to hang out with Jennifer's friends because she feels like, you know, Mariner being Mariner, she's freaking insane. If she goes to hang out with Jennifer's friends, she's going to be bossy, off-putting, and then that's going to affect her relationship with Jennifer, because secretly, even though Mariner likes to act like she isn't about relationships, she does care about her and Jennifer's relationship from a mile away. And I'm just like, okay, this is sick. Mariner's a pretty sick MC, and everything in this episode just comes full circle beautifully. Mariner spends the rest of the evening actually phasering all of Jennifer's friends because they're extremely annoying. Actually, one of them is a huge bitch. They're all really lame, and they're doing really lame activities. So Mariner has to put up with that, and it's very nice and gratifying getting to see her phaser everybody. And also, coming back to the whole Orion thing, Tendi has to basically take over the Karama ship because Quark gets kidnapped and arrested by them because they find out that they're using their technology in his Quark 2000. So actually, there's just this beautiful scene where Tendi busts out her own pirating skills because unlike Mensk, who is a Orion pirate poser, Tendi is a real freaking pirate, dude. She is amazing. There is nothing that Tendi can't do. She is a dynamo. She basically takes over this whole ship. She beats up one of the Kuramins, and their name is really hard to say. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. But she beats one of them up and steals one of their latinum-laced tooths and uses it to, diddle with the engines and take over the ship and help return Quark back to Deep Space Nine. It was so incredible getting to see Deep Space Nine again today. It's a little bit sad, the Dominion War is over. Deep Space Nine's story is so over, and now it's almost just kind of a relic that sits there in front of the Gamma Quadrant portal. You could tell that Major Kira, or Colonel Kira, it is now, is just kind of chilling and doing her duty, and it seems like things are peaceful there, which is very, very uncharacteristic of Deep Space Nine. I love Deep Space Nine so much. This episode put me in my feels. I loved it so much. You know what I mean? I want to be objective and give this like an objective score, but no. Because we actually went to Deep Space Nine today, I feel like historically this is just a good episode for Star Trek. This is probably one of the most important episodes Star Trek of all time when you think about it. When you really think about how long it's been since we've truly been back to Deep Space Nine, it's been decades. And Mike McMahan has finally given us the opportunities to see them again, brought to life in this episode. Kira, Quark, I wish I could have seen just one more character. But we still have a lot more seasons of Lower Decks to go, so hopefully maybe we will see O'Brien or somebody else pop up, or maybe even a character that is played by a deceased actor. Like, it would really be cool if we could see like Nog or maybe even Odo show up in the background of a future Lower Decks episode. Lower Decks is so awesome how they can do this and just bring back something that you wouldn't really be able to do in live action, but they're just doing it beautifully in this cartoon. And also, they're just doing it harmlessly. When you really think about it, they just ignored any Deep Space Nine furthering lore like the plague. The only thing that we know concretely now is that at this point in the timeline, Colonel Kira is still in charge of Deep Space Nine, which is really, really cool to know. I give this episode a 9 out of 10 because I am a Deep Space Nine whore. I'm an absolute slut harlot when it comes to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But what did you guys think? I know you guys had fun. I know you enjoyed this episode. There's no way that any of you guys actually disliked this episode. This episode is absolutely amazing. Beautiful episode of Lower Decks. One of the best ever. 9 out of 10. Thank you guys so much again for watching another one of my reviews. If you're enjoying any of the content, I'd be very flattered if you're to subscribe. Once we hit 10K on the channel, I am going to dress up as a Star Trek alien and record a really funny video out in public. If you have anything that you'd like to tell me, leave it down in the comments below. I 100% read every single comment. They're my favorite thing about YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to slap a like on it. And lastly, if you'd like to discuss anything that we discuss here on the channel, be sure to join my Discord. The link is in the bottom of every video. And with all that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Live long and prosper.